welcome to this evening, which we've rather grandly called a colloquium. We've a distinguished international gathering here, united by faith and sport, and assembled to witness, and some of you to take part, in a bit of sporting and ecclesiastical history tomorrow. We've taken as our broad subject faith and sport. So let me introduce the panel. In the centre, a man who needs no introduction, Henry Olonga, who sacrificed a promising career for his principles in 2003, standing up against what he said was a breach of democracy, the death of democracy in Zimbabwe. So thank you, Henry, for taking part. Further to our right, we have Tony Curra, the captain of the Vatican XI. Next to him, Father Jerry Nyaliet from Kerala in India. I almost got that right, Father Jerry. I'll get it right with a little bit more practice later on. And nearer to home, we have, next to me, Will Fulger, an ordinand at Cranmer Hall and a fast bowler. And next to him, Rob Glennie, member of the team and a curate in Oxford. I'd like to ask you, perhaps since you're nearest, first of all, Will, how important sport is in the religious life?
I think ultimately sport is a reminder to us that we were created for enjoyment and for joy. And it seems to me that in the new heavens and new earth we'll be playing a lot of sport. I hope so anyway. I put it up there for me with it's music and art in a world where so much of our lives is about productivity and producing things. Sport is a reminder that we were created for joy and to enjoy God's world.
But is it about winning at all costs, crushing the opposition?
Like all of God's gifts, it can be warped and used in the wrong way. But it also seems to me there's something about sport where you do develop those virtues if played rightly.
Rob, it seems almost blasphemous to even think about conceiving of Jesus as playing football.
Well, I think I can imagine it, actually.
Playing to win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Playing to crush the opposition.
Perhaps not that, no. And perhaps with divine help it would be less needed. But there is an assumption there, isn't there, I think, that on the one hand, sport is trivial, and on the other hand, we're definitely playing to win, so it's incredibly serious. Now, I think Jesus would have picked the middle ground of those two things. I think he led a team quite admirably, as it happens.
Brilliant. Father Jerry, how important has sport been for you in your religious formation?
I would say sports has been very important in the formation, in my formation. I am coming from India, from the southernmost part of India. The place is called Kerala. For us, the best place to go and play has always been the church and the church surroundings. The church had a lot of place, a lot of ground for the football, for cricket, for basketball, volleyball, and all those stuff. For me, sports is something like, it is something that helps you to become a better person. Because most of the values in sports, we see the effort to be excellent or the perseverance. These are human qualities. These are what we are looking for. These are what we want to attain. And in that sense, in our formation, it has always been very important. The aspect of sport has been always very important. And I should say it has immensely helped.
And would you say on the Indian subcontinent in particular, sport has been a way of people burying their differences of culture, class, even caste and religion?
Very much, I would say that. When we go in the afternoon to the parish campus and all, that is the place where the boys from the different religion come together. We play there. There is no religious stuff there. Cricket has always been a great medium and context for India and Pakistan to come together in many occasions.
The traditional things that young people get up to, if you read the papers, are clubbing, drink, alcohol, smoking, sex, drugs, rock and roll, the usual sort of thing. Did you find, though, that sport was, if you like, an antidote to that? It was looked at negatively to take away that energy and possibly the hormones, or something that was positive, that added to the priestly and the religious way of life?
Yeah, I think really it's just something that it's healthy. I mean, it's healthy to do. I mean, if you enjoy it. I mean, it's part of. It's just part of living living a life where you feel alive.
But Henry, when you were playing first-class cricket at the elite level,
a long time ago.
Well, I'm sure you're as good now as you were then. But, I mean, is there a danger of it becoming all-consuming? And that certain other things, religion, Christianity, service, so forth, take a bit of a backseat?
I think, in my case, I was very much aware of the fact that it was a very short window in my life. I didn't know at the time it was going to be 8 years, but, generally a fast bowler's career is probably from 18 to early 30s if they're lucky and they don't get injured. So I knew that it needed to be that I would have to give everything for a very short period of time in my life to be the best cricketer I could be. And yes, it did. It was, I wouldn't say an obsession, but it to be fair, it's not very difficult, is it? It's sort of, test match is 5 days. It's 6 hours a day with a few breaks in between, lunch and tea. And you're asked to give your best for a few hours, then you get 3 days off before the next test. So, I mean, it looks hard, and it is, don't get me wrong. But for the amount of time you're asked to give your best, it's in the grand scheme of things isn't that much. So, why not give everything you've got for that little sort of time in the sun that you have?
Have there ever been occasions when the sport and the faith have clashed? When, let's say, training or a fixture has trumped Sunday worship or a fellowship group in the middle of the week?
Paul says, let no one judge you about keeping Sabbaths. And he also then goes on to suggest that every day should be a Sabbath unto the Lord. And my feeling on this was, if I'm doing what I feel the Lord has called me to do, and there's ample evidence in my life that I feel I was led into cricket. There are many things that sort of lined up, and I'm not going to say God spoke to me, but I was led, I think divinely, to go into cricket when I could have gone into other things. And having found myself there, I do believe that the Lord wanted me to play. And if I was going to play Test cricket for Zimbabwe, I had to play on Sunday. You couldn't avoid it. If you're going to play it, you can't play for the first 3 days and say, sorry guys, I don't play on Sundays. They don't pick you. My advice would be, well, you've got to make sure that you're getting fed and in fellowship with people the rest of the week. So in the big scheme of things, at the end of the day, I do think that if playing on Sunday takes you away from your relationship with God, which is primary, then I think you need to reassess. However, if you've got balance about it, hey, have fun.
Well, I wonder if I could just explore that with any member of the audience.
Mark Rylands from Shrewsbury. It's a dilemma when you've got children, and if your son comes in and wants to play football, and the football's on a Sunday, what are you going to do? Say you don't play football, and you're going to come to church? I'm not sure that's a good answer.
So what are you going to do? What do you say as a priest and indeed as a father?
Well, I think you find a way round it. What we did was I went and saw the football coach, and I said, if you put the football on an hour later, I'll deliver you 6 lads for your football team, and I'll walk them up from church.
Christine McCarthy from Australia. I think from the point of view of raising a family, and I have 3 boys as well as 3 girls, it's important to make them realise, or to form them in such a way that their faith is very important to them. And of course they're all going to love sport, and that's important to them too. But if there's a conflict, they will work it out themselves. They will say, well, as a Catholic, they will say, well, we'll go to the vigil mass and then we can do whatever tomorrow morning. Or we'll get back from sport at such and such a time in the afternoon and we'll go to the evening mass.
And it's important, I would imagine, as has already been said as a parent, that you're not there to say no to everything. That you're not there to say, be a bit of a killjoy. That life is hallowed aright is a wonderful thing.
I'd love to hear your points of view on how do we support the young coming out, following the game, the culture of drinking, that banter, that going out and things like that.
Well, let's pass it over perhaps to Henry.
Well, I think this is where mentoring comes in, doesn't it? And by the way, great observation. I do think that people involved in youth work who are aware of the sporting culture ought to give an opportunity, a forum for this to be discussed. When I started out, I made it very clear that I was a Christian quite early on. I think it's just easier that way. And with regards to drinking culture, I just said, I don't drink, guys. And I left it at that. I didn't discuss it. I didn't go on about it. And there were opportunities down the line when people did come and ask me, hey, so, why don't you drink? And then, of course, the door was open.
I was a university chaplain for 7 years in Durham. I was very conscious that the students had to be very strong. I mean, and the thing which we could offer them is fellowship and support and another social place that they could also come.
I at university, I didn't play sport. I coached the women's football team, which was the greatest job of all time. And out of that, I had conversations with people who came to church with me, people who came to hear me preach, people who asked for prayer, and I had people who completely ignored me about it. But the best thing and the most important thing was I was a good coach, and that was what mattered, first and foremost. And after being a good coach, because I was modelling good coaching and being a good, solid Christian, that's where the mission comes from, I think.
And I think a lot of this runs deeply to do with the search for meaning, purpose and value at root. And that's where sport and faith overlap. People can't transcend to see the virtues that were talked about at the beginning. The fellowship, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the love and the meaning that comes ultimately from God that's there within sport.
There's no point playing unless you win. You have to play to win. And is that potentially at odds with the Christian worldview?
Well, this might sound controversial, but Paul said, run as if you want to win the prize. But I suspect that he had his ducks in a row. I think when sport becomes dark and you see people wanting to win at all costs, and that leads to them breaking the rules and cheating, you get disqualified, and Paul does talk about that in the Word. So clearly there's a connection between playing hard, giving your best, but doing it in the right spirit. But oftentimes when you sit down some of these top flight sportsmen and women who've done it all, they've won Olympic gold and they've broken records and they've been eulogized for their achievements. A lot of them end up saying, but it's not all it's cut out to be. I think we're hardwired as human beings to worship something, to yearn for something more transcendent than just the physical. And so we're searching for something to worship. We're searching for something to live for. And I would suggest that the drinking, the pleasure, the achievements, the gold medals, the lots of runs and wickets, if that's all you live for, there's a sense of emptiness and loss. But when you've got your ducks in a row and you are doing what Paul suggests we do, which is whatever you do, whether you eat, sleep or drink or play sport, do it all as if you do it unto the Lord. I think then, all of a sudden, it's wonderfully fulfilling.
Did you ever pray to win?
Yeah, sure, but they didn't often get answered, but it didn't dent my faith. It just wasn't God's will on the day.
I remember being about 15, 16 and watching rugby games and just being astounded that they were taking lumps out of each other in the game. And then the final whistle blows and there's that moment where they shake hands and they do more than shake hands, they hug or they exchange shirts. And I remember being 15, 16 and just being astounded that reality existed in the world.
I wonder whether we've lost sight of the sheer joyfulness, the playfulness of sport, enjoying it for its own sake.
No, I don't think we have lost it at all. I played club cricket at a really quite embarrassingly poor standard over the last couple of summers, and I'm pleased to say that I played alongside people who kept that standard low. And they weren't turning up because they were brilliant cricketers. They were turning up because what they did they loved. And there's just no greater testament to the game than that.
Maybe in the amateur level, I am sure that it is there. Even these days we have been playing together on this tour, and we are enjoying thoroughly. But to the level of professional sport, maybe
And I think we'll look forward to a lot of that tomorrow. Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen, for taking part. Thank you to our panel. Our distinguished VIP guest, Henry Olonga, absolutely wonderful to have you. To Paul Handley, editor of the Church Times, who organised this evening, and thanks chiefly to you. I'll leave you with a story told by someone the British contingent will know, a colleague of mine in BBC Television, Michael Parkinson, who, in addition to being the doyen of the TV chat show, is a very fine sports writer. And he found himself one evening at a dinner not unlike the one you're at this evening and tomorrow, sitting next to an American woman who perhaps rather unwisely asked him about cricket. So he told her, and for 15 minutes he gave her all the details about this arcane language, about all the rules and regulations, about all the positions on the field, the bowling, the batting, the fielding, the wicket-keeper, and all the rest of it. And she listened with rapt attention. And after 15 minutes, she looked at him and she said, "That's absolutely amazing. And to think they do all that on horseback." Good night.